Hello there, I'm Chris Dashew.
I'm Mike White.
And this is Father Malone.
And we are the hosts of Dreams for Sale, a once-a-month look at the Twilight Zone 1985 by three guys who might be qualified to talk about it. I don't know. You can be the judge. On this episode, we are kicking off the second season of Twilight Zone 1985. We're finally here with the first episode that is split into two segments, The Once and Future King and A Saucer of Loneliness.
Exit 1 Gary Pitkin, singer, impersonator, and restless subject of a dead king named Elvis Aaron Presley. A frustrated young man born 25 years too late, who is about to find his own place to dwell down at the end of Lonely Street in a neighborhood called the Twilight Zone.
So, The Once and Future King and A Saucer of Loneliness aired September 27, 1986. The first segment is directed by Jim McBride. It is written by Bryce Martiano, but it is a teleplay by, once again, George R.R. Martin. The segment focuses around Elvis impersonator, played by Jeff Yeager, who travels back in time, and while Wikipedia does say he meets the real Elvis, it gets way worse than that. He becomes Elvis? It's really, 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 really dumb. In my opinion, at least. What about you, Mike White? What say you, Mike White?
As a big Elvis fan, I found some things about this enjoyable. I liked the circular time structure that it had. It reminded me of a Holloway book that I liked a lot, which was basically the exact same thing, but it was Malcolm X. And it was a guy that goes back in time and visits Malcolm X, and Malcolm X gets shot, and then he has to replace him because he was Malcolm's great-grandson or something. There's no real reason why the Elvis impersonator looks exactly like Elvis, and it's played by the same actor, but as an Elvis fan, I was like, okay, this kind of works. And yeah, it was kind of dumb, but at the same time, I enjoyed it. It was nice seeing Red West show up and some of the other, inside baseball things. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool. Knowing that Elvis had a twin that died, Jesse Guerin. I was like, all right, that's kind of nice. So,
like you said, the deep cut of Red West is an odd deep cut. It's a cool one, but it is an odd one.
Well, he's one of the Memphis Mafia, so...
Sure. I know, but like you said, it is real inside me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I thought that Yeager did a good job as Elvis, and I thought that they handled the one actor playing two roles fairly well. So, yeah, I was all right with this.
What about you, Father Malone?
Well, I'm going to echo that a bit in that I am, too, a massive Elvis fan, and I liked that... I liked the attention to detail, and I was kind of into the whole thing up until he starts having to do everything that Elvis does. That didn't actually make any sense to me. Because
Wait, no, you don't understand. He replaced him, so he has to make the same mistakes, okay? That's the way the story works.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it doesn't work, Father Malone.
I know the thematics that were at work, but it wasn't like anyone came to him and said, if you deviate from Elvis's life in any way, there's going to be a catastrophe. He starts the episode talking about how, look, I know I get it's the theme that you have to do what you have to do, whatever, blah, blah, blah. If you're going to take pains to show me this guy burying Elvis's body, then you got to come up with a reason why, other than it's the right thing to do, to make every mistake Elvis made. Like, what if any of you had been turned into Elvis, wouldn't the first thing you had done as soon as you made it not sign with Colonel Tom Parker, or like at some point go, I'm gonna not do all those movies? Like, what? He says at the end, like, I think I've done everything that Elvis would have done or Elvis would have liked, but the Elvis he meets is not that Elvis. That's some guy who's like, this is Satan's music and you're from hell and I'm not going to disrespect my mama like that. Like, shades of Elvis, sure, but like, what?
Yeah. But like, you don't understand, the Elvis the entire time has been Gary Pitkin, because the real Elvis was apparently a shithead who didn't want to sing That's All Right, Mama. He wanted to sing love ballads, and that would never have gotten him anywhere. It's really dumb. Like, the circularity works, but it doesn't when you take away why are you idolizing this person and yet literally doing the same things that they did, which cause you to not idolize them. What the fuck?
Yeah, the
if
first
they
thing
had
he
started
says
the
is they'll
episode-
slap on sideburns on me and put me in a white jumpsuit, and then we see him with sideburns in the white jumpsuit.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense. And that's, I mean, again, I am a huge fan of Elvis, just like y'all are. I mean, Elvis is one of the greats, other than the fact that he stole African Americans' music and made it popular, but that's beside the point. Not
No,
really,
you know what?
but
No,
they don't really address it here.
I'm
But
gonna
they
jump
kind
in.
of do, apparently.
Listen, this thing about Elvis stealing black people's music, Elvis grew up fucking in a dirt fucking floor house in and amongst black people. Like, you know, how could he not be informed by it? It's not like Perry Como going, what's the next thing? I'll do that. Like, I hate that argument about Elvis.
I get it. But at the same time, he did popularize music that African Americans.
Certainly.
He popularized music that they were making. That doesn't necessarily mean he stole
Sure,
it.
it's fair. I used the wrong word. I 100% own up. But I do like how this gives it a reason as to how that happened, even if it's unintentional.
Yeah, I wish they had just started with the guy, like, being an Elvis obsessive to the point that he knows all these things and agrees with everything Elvis did. Like, he thought that was great. If somebody had been, if like the manager had been saying to him, like, yeah, but he got fat in Vegas, he's like, that was the best part of Elvis. You know, like, that could have made sense. But this guy who obviously knows the missteps Elvis took during his career and in his life, like, why would you adhere to any of that? It doesn't make any sense.
No, it doesn't, because again, I mean, again, that's why I said it's stupid, because it's a story that serves no purpose. At the end of the episode, he just goes, man, I fucked this up just like Elvis did. It's like, what? What is even the point of this story then? Because are you trying to tell us that Elvis is just, as a person, regardless of who takes his place, is doomed to do what he did regardless? And there is no free will in Elvis? Or what is it? Because I didn't understand what the story was going for. Because I don't even think it knows. Because at one point it's trying to tell the story of a guy replacing Elvis, but you would think if he's replacing Elvis, he would try to do everything right.
Yeah, and we've already gotten a story from this television series about somebody replacing somebody in the past and having to act out history exactly as it happened, because there was going to be a huge problem if he didn't. So when you get to this thing, like, you know, the frustrating thing is, like, I was really enjoying the episode up until that point. Like, I thought it was well made, and I thought, like you said, Mike, I think Jeff Yeager did a pretty creditable Elvis. And to take it in this direction where it's just like, oh, it is all fate, and you have to play your role, like, out of nowhere, I'm just like, nah.
No, and you know, like you just said, much credit to Jeff Yeager. We've talked about this before on the Culture Cast, shameless self-promotion, this idea of impersonation versus evocation. And he's not impersonating Elvis. He's evoking Elvis. And it works really well. Even when he's playing Elvis, and I'm not saying the character playing Elvis, I'm saying he's actually playing Elvis, he's still not doing an Elvis impersonation. He's evoking what we at least believe to be, or have told to be, Elvis in his, pre-Sun studio day. And it works. And it's just a shame that this episode doesn't do anything with it other than tell a story of how Elvis was fated to be fat and drugged up and die on the toilet from drugs. It's like, what the fuck is the point of this story then? Show us a change.
Yeah.
Be the change.
Be the change you want to see in Elvis.
I mean, at
Because
least...
I genuinely am, like, struggling for what the point of the episode was.
Yeah, no, I don't get it either. And, just not to keep fixing the episode or anything, but, like, even if they had just let him do one thing different, and then he saw that an entire other thing occurred, he's like, oh my god, I gotta stay to this path. Like, that would have been okay. It would have made the episode really good. So, yeah, as is, I can't figure out what they're trying to say. I mean, I guess fate is circular? I don't know. Sure, why not?
Well, and again, it would only make sense the way it makes sense now if the character of Gary Pitkin didn't remember Elvis's past mistakes, but then he couldn't remember Elvis's music. So you can't do that. And that's the thing that makes no sense, is you almost can't have it both ways. And it's a shame because, again, I like the premise of this episode just fine. Focusing on a pop culture figure and, doing something interesting with their really well-known backstory, I think is really clever. But that's where the cleverness ends.
Yeah, I don't know. Ultimately, why did he have to live out his life? Like, maybe this was a moment in time where he had to fix something because the character we get, like, in the entire opening scene, it just keeps hammering about rock and roll Elvis was the best iteration of Elvis. And if you look at Elvis's life, that was like a, 4-year period, maybe? Like 56 to 60? As soon as he went into the army, I mean, not until the 70s, name of an Elvis song that could be considered rock and roll. It was always just sort of light pop vocals, for a decade. So, like, I don't know. This episode doesn't know its own characters. This guy would never deviate from that.
Yeah, it's a shame. And again, I don't think we're going to get another Elvis episode, unlike all the Devil episodes or Devil segments that we've gotten. So I don't think that there's a way for them to redeem themselves with this story. But it's just a shame because, Jeff Yeager does a pretty serviceable evocation of Elvis. And for it to not have anywhere to go is a shame. I do find it funny, though, that Elvis, the actual Elvis, just eats shit on a guitar. just runs into a guitar face first, and it impales him straight through the heart. And he's just flat out dead.
But I guess there's no blood in Elvis because he puts on his clothes and they're pristine.
Yeah, but he is lonesome tonight.
I just want to leave with this. Elvis needs boats. Elvis needs boats. Thank you.
Captain Elvis? The sailing Elvis?
Commodore Elvis.
I'm more of a fan of what is it called? The Fool's Loaf Elvis, where they would eat like a whole loaf of bread stuffed with peanut butter and bacon and bananas. I'm a fan of that Elvis.
Yeah, pretty great.
When he would take his private plane.
To like Denver or wherever the hell that restaurant is.
So good.
And eat a loaf. It is a real thing. What's it called? Like the Fool's, what's it like Fool's Loaf or something? It's so disgusting. But at the same time, you're just like, I envy anyone who can get in their private jet to go eat the Fool's Gold Loaf, which is a loaf of bread filled with 1 jar of peanut butter, 1 jar of jelly, and a pound of bacon. That does sound good.
Yeah.
I mean, so let's talk about the next segment of this episode. A Saucer of Loneliness.
Message found in a bottle. Sender unknown. Still alive or long dead. The last of his species. Or a traveler marooned on alien shores. Perhaps in the end, all that matters is this. That even to loneliness, there is an end. And for those who are lonely enough, long enough, a message cast adrift on the darkest beaches of the Twilight Zone.
So A Saucer of Loneliness was directed by John D. Hancock. It's written by David Gerrold and Theoden. It's written by Theodore Sturgeon, and it stars Shelley Duvall and Robert Libertini in a segment that Richard Libertini. In a segment that I'm going to defer to y'all first, because I'm genuinely curious what y'all think.
I went first last time, Father Malone, if you want to start.
What can I tell you? I'm a sap. I liked this segment. I really felt for the character. I liked the theme of it. I liked that it was positing a connection to like an alien or an alien civilization in a way that was in no way scary or action-based, but more emotional. I felt horrible for Shelley Long the entire time. I thought she did a great job showing how desperately lonely she was. I mean, the scene where she goes on the date with that guy and he just wants the information and she goes back home broken. Like, I don't know. That got me where I live. So, I don't know. I think it was a nice, gentle segment. It didn't feel off in any way to me, but you guys might have a differing opinion. Also, I had somehow forgotten the idea of putting a message in a bottle. Even Sting wrote a song about it. And to see that sort of dramatized again, like that's the way she was reaching out. I don't know. I liked it.
Not only did he put a message in a bottle, Father Malone, he sent out an SOS and you still forgot.
To the world.
Yeah.
But, eventually 100 million bottles did wash up on the shore, so.
Boy, I think we just die now, and I think we'll probably be happy. What about you, Mike White? What did you think?
This episode lives and dies by Shelley Duvall's performance, and I bought it. I was there with her, and I really felt for her. So, yeah, I was pretty choked up watching this as well. It could have been really super sappy and just like, what the fuck are you doing kind of thing. But I enjoyed it. And I thought that the idea of this UFO kind of being this message in a bottle thrown through the galaxy or whatever, I thought that was kind of a nice thing. And yeah, it's always nice to see Richard Libertini show up in anything, taken from us way too soon, in my opinion. So I was very glad when he showed up. I recognized him before I even saw his face. I just saw the profile and I was like, hey, it's that guy from All of Me. And sure enough, it was.
Or as Father Malone, I'm sure, said, hey, it's Fletch's boss from Fletch.
No. I actually think of him, and I'm sorry, I don't know the character's name, from his performance in Popeye with Shelley Duvall.
Oh, right.
You want carrots? $2.50.
Oh, you mean Giesel.
Yes!
Yeah.
Good one. Good one.
I only know that because I recently rewatched that Popeye movie, and boy, it's a movie.
I just bought it on Blu-ray. Woohoo!
It's a movie that I think has aged rather well with time. And it didn't deserve to come out when it did. It needed to come out now.
I saw it so many times when I was in elementary school.
Yeah, I love that movie.
Robin Williams was a choice, and it's a choice that works. But in regards to choices that work in this segment for me, I'm with y'all. Shelley Duvall, I think, like you said, Mike, this episode does live or die by her performance. And Shelley Duvall, current situation aside, Shelley Duvall is a very believable spinster. It's unfortunate because obviously that's kind of who's now in real life. So it's kind of sad to watch this character and know kind of where Shelley Duvall is in her own personal life now, much publicized. But it works in the context of this segment, and I do like this kind of juxtaposing of her message in a bottle with the quote saucer that was a message in a bottle of itself. It is a stark contrast to the last episode segment that had nothing to say, and this segment feels like it actually has something to say, and it feels like it actually manages to stick that landing. Maybe not completely, but at least enough where, like you said, Mike, there is some emotion that does. Yeah, they do a good job of evoking some emotion and getting you to really feel for Shelley Duvall's character.
It's enough that I'd like to go back and read the Theodore Sturgeon story. Of all the sci-fi authors that I've read, I haven't yet gotten to Sturgeon. I think I have a copy of More Human Than Human somewhere around here, but I still haven't read it, and I would love one of these days to maybe go on a vacation and take some Sturgeon with me.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you. He's one of the giants of the genre that somehow has eluded me my entire life. And if this is any indication of his writing, then I agree. I need to dive in as well. Really, just good overall. Like I was, it made me hopeful for the entire rest of the second season. This particular, because I didn't hate the Elvis one. I just thought it was a misfire. And then they sort of come to bat with this. So. Yeah, this is what the Twilight Zone is supposed to be. And it's like you said, Mike, that, it would be so easy to make this as maudlin as some of the other episodes we've already seen from the show. Really easy, and it was deftly handled. I don't know. I mean, to me, the only misstep in the episode is the mother character, who I didn't think we even needed. Yeah, just the sort of stereotypical yelling at her, she's not respectable and blah, blah, blah. She came, I don't know, that she seemed like lifted from a 50s film or something. So, other than that, I think it's kind of perfect.
Yeah. Yeah. She reminded me of like Carrie White's mother. It's like, what is your problem, lady?
Yeah. I mean, unnecessary. It actually would have been more effective of her just showing her at home alone. Like in her pathetic life.
Actually alone.
Yeah, because that would have at least reinforced this connection to no one effective. And I like that the saucer with its message alienates her even further. I thought that was nice. Not nice, but well handled.
And again, the message that it says, I mean, not to get maudlin, but it's a message that I think a lot of us in, especially 2021, 2020 overlay, overnight in 2020, I think it's a message that so many of us need to really internalize. Loneliness is shared. But there's always someone lonelier than you, so don't be super. So, no, but it's a good segment for sure. I liked it a lot. And that's unfortunate because I hope that it sustains that quality. Because boy, the end of the first season better not be a way that the second season's going to end, because we'll be right back to, man, I liked the first couple segments, but that's it. So
hazards of anthology television.
So on the next episode of Dreams for Sale, we're going to be taking a look at the second episode of season 2. We're going to be talking about What Are Friends For and Aqua Vita. So until then, where can people find you?
You can hit me up at fathermalone.com. Check out my podcast, Dark Destinations, kind of a radio drama travelogue to towns that don't exist. You can also hear me over on Chronicles from the Crypt, a podcast Chris and I do about the HBO television series Tales from the Crypt.
What about you, Mike?
Well, you can find me over at projectionboothpodcast.com, where every week we talk about a different movie. And you can also find me at the Barney Miller podcast, which is the life and times of Barney Miller, Captain Barney Miller, with Chris Stashew here. We talk about Barney Miller. Can I say Barney Miller one more time?
I want to say Barney Miller.
Okay, thank you.
And as for me, you can find me on Twitter at Christmas Claus. I'm leaving it that way for the evil future. You can find me on the other podcasts that I work on. They've mentioned some of them, Culture Cast, One Season Show, and Scary Stories We Tell. And those are the other ones. So you can find me on those as well. As for this podcast, you can find us at twilightzone85.com. And you can find us on Twitter at twilightzone85. Big thanks as always to Roxy Drive and Neutron Dreams for the music for the podcast. And we'll catch you on the next episode.